So welcome back to the channel, guys. This is going to be a video on the top needs of each team from the NFC North. This would be the Packers we're going to do first, since they're the North champs from last year, and they went to the playoffs, lost in the divisional round. Don't know what's going to happen this year. However, Packers don't have a ton of needs necessarily. Their offensive line's pretty good. Their defensive line is in pretty good shape. Linebacking core is not bad. Secondary is pretty stout. Their main needs at this point, from what I see, is going to be tight end with free agency, with Robert Tonyan possibly leaving in free agency. The receiver core, not having much there besides Davante Adams. And of course, you don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. If he leaves, they're stuck with Jordan Love. Not a good situation to be in. They really put themselves behind the 8 ball in drafting that kid and trading up to get him, taking him way too high when they could have put more talent in there and prepared themselves if Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers had left, and they could have got their quarterback last year in a more stout quarterback draft. Instead, they go with Jordan Love, and I think that could come back to bite them in the butt big time. Supposedly, according to some sources, Aaron Rodgers is supposed to come to a decision as soon as tomorrow, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Hopefully that will happen. I think he really needs to make a decision as soon as possible for himself and for the Packers. But they're definitely strapped for cash. So they're going to have to work some cap magic if they want to sign any free agents. Don't have a ton of draft picks, but they got enough to make a difference. Most of that will be spent on receiving core, maybe another quarterback even, because you can tell Jordan Love, he's not going to be the future of the Green Bay Packers. So that's the Green Bay Packers. So let's go to the Minnesota Vikings. They could trade Kirk Cousins. They don't have a whole lot of issues on the offensive line. Their receiving core is pretty good. Tight ends, they're okay at. Secondary, they could use some help. Linebackers, some help. Defensive line, with Danielle Hunter, his health, he hasn't been healthy as of the last couple years. They really need to upgrade that defensive line. Receivers, you could use some help, but quarterback, are they going to trade Kirk Cousins? Are they going to keep him? If you do move on from him, Kellen Mond's not ready. None of the other guys are ready. Nate Stanley. What are you going to do there? You're going to have to draft one this year. Not a great crop of quarterbacks, but I think there's some potential in there. Whether it's Sam Howell, Matt Corral, Malik Willis is probably going to go before they get a chance to draft him, unless they trade up. Kenny Pickett and hand size issues, yeah, that doesn't really concern me. I think Kenny Pickett's still going to be a very good draft pick. Malik Willis could be a good fit, but I feel like they're going to have to trade up to get him. And I don't know how much they're going to have to trade to get up to a spot to get him. If the Panthers don't draft him, or Pittsburgh doesn't try to jump up, or there's going to be some teams that fall in love with this kid, not realizing he's not ready to start yet. And it's going to be pretty bad for that kid and that team if he has to start year one. Now, some people do well getting thrown into the fire. Some quarterbacks don't. You never know. Lamar Jackson handled being thrown into the fire pretty well. Flacco started but didn't last long, and they replaced him with, that kid, Lamar Jackson. Turned out pretty well for the Ravens. Don't know if the same thing's going to be true of Malik Willis. He's not the same speed of Lamar Jackson. Doesn't have the same arm strength. Not the same guy. I don't know. But I think he's a solid pick. But he needs to go to a place where he can sit and learn, or a good team like the Browns, who have enough talent around him to help him out in his rookie year because he's not used to an NFL offense. And I'd like to see him go somewhere where he can get used to an NFL offense and have a long career and not a team that's going to run his legs off and possibly destroy his career quicker than it should end. That's my hope for him. Don't think the Vikings would be the best fit. They'd be better than some other teams because they do have good offensive line. They have some defensive players. They have enough around him where he wouldn't be asked to do everything and put it on his back. So that would be a good landing spot. So next we're going to go Detroit Lions. So the Detroit Lions have quite a bit of issues. One of them being quarterback. There's talks about them trading Jared Goff. Would they try to get a Carson Wentz? Would they try to go after a Sam Darnold or a Josh Rosen, give them a shot? Are they going to draft one? They need receiver help to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown, sorry for botching that. They got a good tight end. That's not a concern. The offensive line is getting better, especially with Penei Sewell being there. Defensive line needs some help. Linebacker and secondary could definitely use some help. Pair somebody with Jeff Okudah, get another safety. But quarterback is a big need. Don't think Jared Goff's that bad. I think if they continue to put some more talent around him, he's good enough to get you to the Super Bowl. Obviously did it with the Rams with not that much talent, really. Sorry, guys, but the Rams, when he took him to the Super Bowl, it was him, Cooper Kupp, and Todd Gurley. They had Aaron Donald, but they didn't have a ton of pieces on that defense or that offense, and the offensive line wasn't quite as good. So quarterback could be a trade option. Who knows? It's hard to say, but I think they've got a good GM, pretty good head coach. I think they'll be okay. They could use some pieces, but they're not as in bad shape as the next team, which is, of course, the Chicago Bears. They have an aging defense that is past their prime. And they've got a young quarterback that has great upside and great potential in Justin Fields. Allen Robinson could be walking. They don't have a ton of great offensive linemen. They need help desperately on offensive line. Receiver core needs help. Tight ends. They got Cole Kmet. He's okay. We'll see how he turns out. Defensive line is going to need some juice. Linebacking core, secondary is pretty atrocious. So they have a lot of issues to cover in free agency and the draft. So it's going to be interesting. Do they pick up an Amari Cooper? That's one of the guys that's going to be floating around for a lot of teams. Denver, Atlanta now, Green Bay, just about everybody. Seattle. If he goes on the open market and it's not a trade, that guy's going to get paid somewhere. He's going to get a job somewhere. So the Chicago Bears right now are going to be, I'm going to put out my rankings before any draft or anything else of teams in the division and where they stand right now as first through fourth place. Right now the Bears will be in fourth place. Worst roster. They got a quarterback, but that kid proved last year he can't put it on his back and take them to wins. So they're going to have to help him out and get him going. And hopefully not get him injured. Because he can be a great quarterback if they help him out and he grows. But if they stunt his growth, now he's got a new OC, a new coach, new general manager, whole different management and team mantra. We'll see how it works out. Hopefully they don't get rid of him. This new regime doesn't get rid of him and go after, his Ohio State buddy, C.J. Stroud, next year. It's hard to say because usually when you get a new general manager and head coach, they want to draft their quarterback. That's the tough thing about that. When you get rid of one regime that just drafted a guy, the next one comes in, they might not want to keep him. So hopefully they decide to keep him, they get him up and running, they get him some talent, inject some youth in that team, and they can get back to going up in the division rankings instead of down. Anyway, that's the video for that, guys. Like, subscribe, share, comment, hit notifications, like this video, and I'll catch you on the next one.